Rajfly here, we're back with what it needs for Company of Heroes 2, a video series that focuses on finding the issues of a particular unit and what adjustments I would like to see made to it to make it more viable in-game. Today's video we're going to be looking at the Panzer IV Command Tank found for the Wehrmacht, or better known as the Ostheer faction. Once again we'll follow the same formula where we give an overview of the unit's stats and abilities before we state what the issues are and how I would go around adjusting it in-game. So to start off this video, the Panzer IV Command Tank is a doctrinal unit found on select commanders. Costing 360 manpower and 100 fuel, the unit is available as a call-in at 7 command points, but it requires either a support armor core or a heavy panzer core to be built by the player. It has a population of 12, putting it on par with most medium tanks. Offensively, the Panzer IV relies primarily on its short 75mm gun. The gun has a good rate of fire and is less scattered than the standard tank guns. This makes it effective against light targets such as infantry and soft-skinned vehicles. But the gun does have a number of limitations which are in the form of penetration and damage. With only 80 damage and 55 penetration max, the Panzer IV Command Tank, even while flanking, will not do considerable damage to heavier vehicles. Furthermore, the reduced damage leads to a weaker AoE in general despite having the same numbers of a standard Panzer IV. As with many vehicles in the game, the Panzer IV Command Tank also suffers from double scatter values when moving. The other armaments for the Panzer IV are its hull and coaxial machine gun. So as long as the unit remains still, these weapons do considerable damage to infantry, especially if they are forced to leave cover. Defensively, the Command Tank has a decent amount of armor at 180, the same as the standard Panzer IV. It also has the same amount of hit points at 640. As for its mobility, the tank is a little bit faster than its upgun counterpart, with a speed of 6.5 versus 6.3, and a rotation rate of 34 versus 32. With a standard sight range of 35, the Command Tank doesn't stand out in any fashion in speed or defense, but it's not terrible either. Capable of taking a decent amount of punishment, and is also capable of moving around the battlefield in a decent amount of time. For stock abilities, the Command Tank has one active in the form of Blitzkrieg, and one passive in the form of its defensive aura. Blitzkrieg, which is available at Veterancy 1, gives a significant speed boost for 30 munitions. For 15 seconds, the speed is increased by 35%, acceleration by 60%, and so as long as the tank is moving, it is 25% harder to hit. Now for the main draw of the Command Tank, it's its passive aura. Units within 45 meters of the Command Tank take 10% less damage. This might not sound like much, but it leads to many units being able to absorb another shot. You particularly notice this against units on the Panzer IV. However, the Stug need not apply due to its odd health at 560 versus the 640 of most medium tanks. As for the unit's Veterancy, it is an exact copy of the Panzer IV. Veterancy 1 grants Blitzkrieg, Veterancy 2 increases the unit's armor and makes the turret rotate faster, and Veterancy 3 improves the unit's speed, mobility, and rate of fire. Now this all sounds good, so what are the problems? Well, it's less of a problem and more what I would want. I believe the Command Tank needs a full rework, less because the unit doesn't work, and more that the Command Tank doesn't fit its support role as well as it should. Yes, the passive aura is nice, but outside that is just a weaker Panzer IV with no other supporting abilities. Furthermore, the unit's Veterancy treats it more as a standard tank, having no impact on the friendlies around it. The passive defense aura makes balancing the unit also difficult versus timed abilities. Either the aura becomes somewhat weak, where certain units do not benefit, or it can be overbearing, especially if it affects allies, since it's always active and the only way to shut it down is either to force away the Command Tank or to outright kill it. Given that many passive auras have been removed outside a few select ones, I think the aura could be turned into a scaling ability, which not only provides more counterplay, but also allow the Command Tank to be given more features to help support a battle line. If the Panzer IV Command Tank were to be changed, I would have the passive aura turned into a time ability that scales with Veterancy, making the Command Tank stronger as it grows in power. This would not only differentiate it from a stock Command Tank from a veteran, but it allows the aura to be more powerful due to its time duration. But what good is a Command Tank when it only carries one ability with limited combat potential? The The Panzer IV would need new abilities, and I think one of these could be a smoke shell that is similar to what the Cromwell uses to help blind support weapons in preparation or during an assault. Another thing that the command tank could get would also be to have better sight, or a timed ability increasing its sight. I mean, there's a guy looking out with binoculars, might as well use them, am I right? Once you add those abilities in, I think the command tank will be fairly good, though you could possibly add a few more abilities if you really wanted to. But those are my ideas what could be added to the command tank to allow it to work. Given the many changes to officer units throughout the game's life, I think the command tank should have more abilities and utilities to further emphasize its support role rather than the current implementation of being an anti-infantry tank with a passive defensive aura. But what do you think? Does the tank need a change, or does it need to be left alone? Leave your opinions and comments down in the video below, and feel free to support me either by checking out the Twitch channel or liking this video. And if you're interested in Company of Heroes 2 and what ideas I have for the game, check out this balance mod, which I will link in the description below. Currently, I've been spending a considerable amount of time testing a number of personal changes with players during Twitch streams, and these include the M20 and SU-76 changes I mentioned in the previous video. Any feedback that you can give me would be very much appreciated. Now that's all for today's episode of What It Needs, and this has been Miragefla, signing off.